Welcome to the Divorce Awakening podcast,
where you wake the fuck up after divorce.
and you realise that your best life ever is ahead of you.
I'm Delia Munn,
And I'm Sam Brindle.
and we're two happily divorced coaches here to show you that life doesn't end after divorce.
Mate, it's just getting started.
This is your chance to find out who you really are and build a life that you can't even imagine.
We'll be talking about purpose, career change, dating, spiritual shit, and falling in love with yourself.
Let's get into it.
Let's go! Hello, and welcome back to this next episode of The Divorce Awakening. We logistically couldn't be together today. As you can see, we're in each in our own places. We've received a couple of comments from our listeners, and it's also something that's come up a lot in our coaching sessions, is around more of the wider concept of marriage. If after divorce, we should look to get married again, if we should ever have got married in the first place. So we're going to delve in a little bit to kind of bit of the wider view of marriage in general.
Yeah, I love this topic. So the question we've had, I'm just reading it here, is marriage something that modern women are not cut out for? Why does it take a divorce to have an awakening? Should we just not get married at all in the first place? Like, big questions.
Big
Wow.
questions.
What do you think, Sam? Do you think that women should get married?
I have a lot of views on this. I think the first question around modern women getting married, for me, the traditional sense of marriage definitely favoured the man. I feel like it was sold to us as women as the thing that we should desire to have, like that is our goal. And historically, for a family, it made sense to marry off your daughters because, you know, there was dowries and you actually received money for your children getting married, your daughters getting married, should I say. But times have changed, and especially where we live, you know, we're not married off as well. I wasn't married off. I mean, maybe perhaps it does still happen.
I mean, there's definitely cultures where there's arranged marriages still, right?
Exactly. It does still happen. But women do now have more choice in how they want to lead their life. And so we can choose whether we want to get married or not. And we can look through some stats, but marriage doesn't necessarily benefit women anymore in the 21st century.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of stats that show that. I remember Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, made headlines when she was on Marie Forleo's podcast, and she was basically saying that marriage is the single worst thing you can do as a woman. I was trying to find the stats before we jumped on this call. Like, I can't find them to back them up, but she claims that for women, you will die younger and poorer and less happy if you're married. And there's definitely lots of stats on, say, like the domestic labor side of things that shows that women are put in a disadvantage. There was one University of Michigan analysis that found the average woman gains about 7 hours of housework per week after marriage, whereas it goes down for men. And then another piece of research by Stanford University said that gender gap in housework is generally considered larger inside marriage than in an unmarried cohabiting relationship, which is something really interesting. So suggesting that it's something more about the institution of marriage itself, not just about living together. And, not speaking without stats, but just speaking as a woman with a lot of female friends, how often are we hearing our friends and women talking about the fact that they are doing it all, right? Women are running the house, doing the housework, looking after the kids, working full time. And the men still very much have this attitude of bringing home the bacon, bringing home the money. And then what really pisses me off is that when men do pull their weight and they do some of this stuff that is often falling on women, they get so praised for it, isn't it? It's like, what a great dad he is. Oh no, I can't complain. He does some of the housework. And it's like this praise because society doesn't still expect it the same way we expect women to be doing it all.
I hear from so many people that I know, it's the same conversations all the time, that they don't do the things. And what gets me is it's the assumption that it's not their job. It's the assumption that the woman will pick it up. And generally we do because, the kids need to go to the doctors or, they have school things that they need to do. And so if then you know that the other one's not going to pick up the slack, then you do just end up doing it. What I saw when I separated is we have 50-50 custody. So on the weeks that the kids are with their dads, he has to do everything. And men are very, very, very capable of doing everything. In fact, I would go as far to say he has things more under control than I do in terms of logistics of the kids. But it took getting divorced for him to be able to show that.
Yes, I love that, Sam. And I think it's true for so many men. Like I'm working with a client at the moment who's getting through a divorce, and she was saying to me how much she is worrying about the kids when they're with the dad, because dad not picking things up, things getting forgotten, things slipping through the net. And I was like, and that might happen. And you're not there to pick up the pieces. That really might happen. And you're not there. And what do you think he might learn from that? Like, what do you think after a year or even just after a few months of things slipping through the net and him being the one that has to deal with it, right? Him being the one who has to deal with kids bouncing off the wall because they've had sugar before bed. He's the one who has to deal with lost books and then taking them to school the next day or whatever it is. Like it's an opportunity for men to grow and have their divorce awakening as well, right?
Yeah. But it does blow my mind that we're still in this world. I mean, I remember growing up as a kid and jokes like, I can't remember the exact joke now, but why do women have small feet? So they can get close to the kitchen sink. Like, I remember that joke. I remember people around me telling that joke, probably the adults, probably like my parents' friends.
Yeah.
And it was so normalized that the woman's job is in the kitchen, is at home, is looking after the kids. And that was 35 years ago.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we've had change and we've had progress, but so much of that is still ingrained in society and culture. And I think there is definitely a problem with marriage, I think, where once you get married, there is that old fashioned cultural societal expectations that slip in. Not for everyone. Like you and I can probably name maybe one marriage where it's not true. Actually, I don't know if I probably can. But it is something that happens a lot. I think another piece of this is, aside from the gender inequalities that can come with marriage, I think another piece of the puzzle is the fact that when you get married, it can be very easy to start taking each other for granted, right? It's like this ultimate, right, we've signed the paperwork, we're married, that's it, till death do we part. Is there then an element after marriage where you check out, you take each other for granted? I don't know. I'm asking this more in a like hypothetical discussion perspective rather than a belief. It's probably not true for everyone, right? But is there a piece of that as well?
Definitely. But going even further.
Yes, let's go all the way in.
I mean,
let's go deep.
When you really think about it, the concept of marriage that, I was 26 when I got married. 20, was I 26? 27.
Quite young.
People are young when they get married. And it's this continuation of the life that's laid out for you, that you go to work, you go to school, you study, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you buy the house. It's like this. But to choose one person out of the entire population to decide that this person is the one that you're going to marry until death do us part, like until you die, without having done any due diligence or having been taught, like, what does marriage actually mean? Like, if you are going to have this partnership, you are signing a contract to be together. And so, like, your question of do we take each other for granted or whatever, like, nobody actually teaches you not to take them for granted or how to be or what it means when you get really annoyed with the other person. Like, all of these things, bearing in mind that you are quite young and quite often, quite soon after you get married, then children start coming, generally. It feels very difficult for that to...
Right? When you're
thinking about this.
Yeah, but think about any decision you make when you're 27. Is there any decision you make at the age of 27 that you would commit to for the rest of your life? Like, think about like your career, your fashion taste, your hairstyle. Like everything evolves and changes. And you're not the same person at the age of 27 as you are today, as we are today in our 40s. So it does feel a bit bonkers to get married. But okay, I'm just going to flip this conversation for a second. Somebody sent me a reel recently, our good friend Zoe, and in it basically said, you will reinvent yourself throughout your life. You will
Hmm.
reinvent yourself over and over and over again. You will. And you have two choices. You can reinvent yourself and keep doing it with a new person, right? So this relationship no longer works. I'm out. And then I've evolved. He can't evolve with me. This is it. It's over. And let's also be honest, there's a bazillion reasons why people get divorced. It's not just for that reason. And then you meet someone else and that person feels really aligned to who you are in your life in that moment. But then you have a choice. Do you work through these tough moments where you're evolving as a person and reinvent yourself with someone? Or are we just saying, no, fuck it. We don't want to have one person forever. Marriage is an outdated concept and it's not realistic to be able to do that with one person.
I think it depends on every situation. What I believe that everyone has choice and everyone can decide what happens in their life. What I'm personally not on board with is the belief that marriage cannot be broken, that you're doing something, that you're failing if you decide that your marriage is over, or that, you in the eyes of God, you signed this contract and thereby it needs to be fulfilled until death. That I don't agree with. I think if you choose and if you believe that, how you put it, reinventing yourself with the same person, if that can work, amazing, amazing. But if it doesn't, then I think everyone has the right to choose to leave that relationship.
100%. And I think you've touched on something really important here, which is one of the problems that marriage is an issue is because of the very old-fashioned expectations that it puts on you, where, like you say, it's like, divorce, you will go to hell, or like, if you really love Jesus, you wouldn't get divorced. Like there's all that like very heavy religious connotations around marriage and divorce and societal pressures. And I think without a doubt that is a problem of marriage. And also like, let's look at what's been going on over in America. Like there's certain states now where I don't know the latest, but I know that there were certain states where divorce was going to be illegal in some states. And unless and there was a change in the conditions, right? So for example, if there was adultery, then you would still be able to get divorced, right? But like going back to those more old fashioned, like I remember my mum got divorced before she met my dad, and you couldn't just divorce anybody then, right? You had to literally put a case together, and she had to put a case together. And I think I can't remember the details, but I think she had to prove that there had been adultery. And then if we look at that's what's happening in the States, that regression back to how it was, it's absolutely terrifying because then it's removing that free choice that you've just talked about from people. And more worryingly, what if you're getting beat or you're being emotionally abused in a marriage but you can't prove adultery, right? So then that's, I remember seeing the campaigns in America where people were saying, even if you love your husband, get divorced now and then just date them because, otherwise you're about to lose that freedom.
And that terrifies me.
And like what fear that if you'd never got married in the first place, like no one could ever do that to you. So that's another fear with marriage, right? You are literally almost like signing away part of your soul, your life decision to the state. I've never really thought about it like this, but like, when I wanted to get divorced, it was obviously go to the government. What's the policy here? What are the rules? What are the laws? Like there's so much that then you're depending on a government to be able to set you free. Like, actually, that's bonkers. Why on earth are we giving that choice and that power to the government?
And someone else said to me recently, it's like, if you have to sign a contract on a rental flat or like on a mortgage or buying a dishwasher, whatever, you read the contract and so you know what you're getting into. But when we get married, which is probably the biggest contract we sign in our lives, like for reasons we've literally just said, did you read what it meant? Especially in terms of financial rights.
No, I didn't.
I
And when I
didn't.
got divorced, I was actually grateful to find out that in Catalonia, where we both live, it's actually got a pretty brilliant like divorce. Like everything you in Catalonia here, everything you own before you were married is still yours when you get divorced. Like that was helpful. But yeah, I didn't look into any of that.
No.
You're literally signing away like your future, your finances, like so many things. And then you're relying on a third party, a government, a state, which could change over the next 10, 15 years, as we've seen happen in America, to set you free if you're no longer happy. God, I started this podcast thinking, no, there's a little bit of me that still holds on to the romance. But now as we're talking, I'm like, yeah. Why would we ever get married?
I mean, the truth is, when I go to weddings, I feel very emotionally happy because a wedding is a happy moment. Because the way I see weddings is that it is celebrating the love that two people have.
Yeah.
But you could just have a party.
Also, Sam.
Because I love the fact that we do celebrate love. And I love that there's two people who've met each other and this isn't an ideal world because I'm not sure, but two people meet each other and they do fall in love and they want to celebrate that love by getting married. But maybe we can celebrate that love in a slightly different way that doesn't mean you're contractually connected to that person until you die.
On a government divorce.
Yeah. Because I am not against, obviously. Like, I love love.
Yeah. I love love.
And I love that people want to kind of celebrate the fact that they want to be together. I had another client, suggest to me that when people get married, it should be on a 10-year lease, if you will.
A rolling contract.
And that, or 7 or 10 or however long you want to make it, so that there comes a point when you can both say to each other, should we renew or should we go our separate ways?
Yeah,
and I found that amazing.
Yeah. This reminds me of a friend's daughter who turned around, she's 8, and she turned around at a wedding recently and said, Mummy, Daddy, why do they say that they will get married until death do they part? Why don't they just say we'll get married for now? I'm like, yeah, she's onto something. I guess another element is maybe there's financial benefits to getting married, right? Or visa benefits, for example, right? That might be just trying to think of like legitimate reasons why you might get married later in life. Maybe you need a visa. Maybe.
No, we're not really celebrating love in this moment, are we? But yes, of course, yes.
Or maybe, we've seen it, haven't we, where people are getting older and someone dies and it can be very complicated sorting out the fight. Although personally, I was just about to say, I don't know what a good will can't sort out, but there's definitely like tax things, like inheritance tax and tax benefits of getting married. So I guess there's.
But then to switch that round, why shouldn't two people who choose to live with each other and share their life together without the formal document, why should they be forfeited? Like, why should they lose out? Because it's true, there are tax benefits to being married.
Are there? I suppose it depends on the country.
I think so. Definitely with regards to if you die, like inheritance, definitely.
So that's one reason. I met someone recently who said that it might be fun to just get married when you're like 65 just because you really love each other and you're like, fuck it. And I like that.
Friend who's planning that.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
They've been together for years, and the year, to be fair, keeps getting pushed back. I feel like they probably would have been met originally. It was around now, but I feel like it's been pushed to the 10 years. But that would be more of a celebration of love, like I mentioned before.
I agree. Also, do you know what would be good with that? The whole till death do we part. It's not going to be as long.
Well, this is another thing about that. When this was designed, people didn't live that long. Definitely didn't live as long as we do now. I mean, you might make it to 60 if you're lucky. But if we're living to 80, 90, that death do you part is a really bloody long time.
It's far too long.
I mean, think of all the wars in between. you could get married and 4 years later.
Yeah. Let's have a nice, short, happy marriage and short life. That was the key. I think as well, being divorced and like looking, when you look back on previous relationships and you have that insight of like a relationship versus marriage. And just from speaking from my own personal experience, I can't say that marriage was any better. I mean, obviously not, I'm divorced, but I mean more than that. I mean that like when you're in that relationship, for me personally, being married and adding that into it didn't give the marriage more strength, make it feel better, really didn't even make me feel safer in the marriage, because I believe that two people should be regularly committing to each other and doing the work and not taking each other for granted and actively choosing each other every day. And for me, being in a relationship, like, boyfriend, girlfriend status versus being married, it wasn't a superior relationship for any reason because I was married. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, what are the benefits of being married?
I can't really compare it because I hadn't really had a long-term boyfriend before I met my ex. He was my first long-term boyfriend. And so I didn't really, I didn't know any different, didn't know what it meant. But I did have in my mind that being married made it more real.
Like it legitimizes the relationship.
Yeah. Whereas, boyfriend, girlfriend, you could just split up at any point.
Mm.
But that
It's
was but
funny.
that's a conditioning I had in my mind. That wasn't something that I believed in. It was something that I kind of assumed to be true. And ironically, when I was a kid, I remember, I must have been about 10. I remember I was at primary school and we were talking about something around to do with marriage. And I remember saying, I don't believe in marriage. I will never get married. And I remember the teacher being a bit like, and I did have that point of view because like my parents were divorced and I just didn't really understand the concept of it. But when it came the point when like I was proposed to, that kind of been chosen, like somebody wants to marry me feeling came over. And I was genuinely, I was really happy. But there was an element of that being picked and someone really wanted to marry me. So why would I not marry them kind of thing?
We've talked about that a lot with dating, haven't we? And spoiler alert, we've got some dating episodes coming up. But that element of like that feeling of pick me, and how dangerous it is, right?
Dangerous.
Because really it should be the alternative, right? Where you are choosing, where you are so happy on your own and you love yourself so deeply in a lovely way, not in an arrogant way, that really you are deciding who is good enough for you and you are picking someone and it's not someone picking you, right? It's that, whereas when we have that pick me feeling.
Yeah, it's coming from a place of lack. It's like they will fill a part of me that I haven't managed to fill myself.
Which again is like a lifetime of fairy tales and stories that we grew up in our generation with princes picking their beautiful woman to marry.
Yeah, and it was the one thing that we should strive to be, is to be someone's wife and to be chosen, to be swept off our feet. Disney.
I mean, they're doing a much better job now.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Moana saves herself, doesn't she?
And Elsa's true love is her sister.
Yeah, they've done a better job.
Yeah. So, question for you, Delia. If you meet someone and you fall madly in love and they talk about marriage, what would be kind of your gut feeling? Would you want to get married again?
So I don't have intentions right now of getting married again. Right? Like, I'm not sitting here thinking I want to get married again. I think from everything I've said in this podcast, it's probably quite clear where I stand.
Honestly, I don't think that's a surprise to people.
However, I would never say never to anything. I feel like life has taught me to never say never. And anytime I have said I would never do something, it's bit me on the ass. And I have done it. And I really believe in not setting myself rules that are too hard and heavy, right? And I feel like if I was to say, I will never get married again, that would probably suggest that I've got a lot of work to do in this area, right? That I have got some like serious stuff to work through, to have that much of a kind of like lasered view on it all. Because there's a little bit of me that, if I'm honest, like the part of me that the way I live my life in general, outside of talking about marriage, but in general, is that anything is possible, right? That is literally how I live my life. Anything is possible. How things went in the past doesn't mean how things are going to go in the future. And so I think it would be a bit sad if I can't bring some of that attitude into the concept of meeting someone or getting married or anything like that. So there's a little bit of me that's like, well, anything is possible. And I maintain everything I've said in this podcast episode. Like, I think more than anything, there's just an element of like, why do you need to get married? You know,
Yeah.
like if you can be really, really happy with someone and just choosing to choose them every day and having a brilliantly delicious, healthy relationship where you are choosing each other all the time without the government getting involved, and maybe having a party where you celebrate love, but you don't call it a marriage. You know, what about you, Sam? I'm going to send that question back to you.
I feel like I'm really putting my foot down, but I don't want to get married again.
Yeah.
I didn't want to when I was a kid, and I still feel the same way now. I don't think it's necessary. It could completely bite me in the bum saying that, but I do feel quite strongly about it. And I would love if I do, you know, if I meet somebody, I would do the party celebration,
Yes.
because I don't think personally, I don't really agree with marriage.
Yeah. I get it.
I think there's other ways to celebrate each other. Yeah. I think I'd like to feel more free. And like we said before, like it feels like the concept of marriage can tie you in and you can lose some of your human rights.
Yeah. You really can. I would say that's actually a big takeaway from me for this episode.
Yeah.
The human rights that you lose when you get married.
But very open to celebrating love and enjoying being with people. I also, well, we're going to talk about dating or not dating in the next couple of episodes. So I think that does feel like a really good place to end this episode. And I very much look forward to talking to you next time, Delia, about what comes before marriage, the dating or deciding not to date. So we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Looking forward to it. See you then. Bye.